Finally, during the state of play, The Last of Us 2 was also approached during an event dedicated to the press. So we could play for almost 3 hours, and we deliver here in 3 minutes our first impressions of this long-awaited title. The first thing that stands out is that Naughty Dog was more interested in changing the background than the form compared to the first episode. So we find some known elements, such as a global construction quite similar to crafting, collecting objects and infiltration in semi-open levels, but also defects such as an ally still invisible to the eyes of enemies. So, as much to say it immediately, all this does not weigh very heavily against the novelties that enrich the heart of the experience. One thinks of the more aggressive enemies who do not hesitate to encircle you, have attack dogs that can sniff your presence and can detect you even when you are hidden in the tall grass or lying in the Serbian low. But far too close to them. Fortunately, Ellie has gained flexibility, and her palette of animations and enriched shots offers you all the tools to defend yourself. We must also salute the work done on the animations, bluffing realism and extremely detailed. We find everything to pick up objects or remove an arrow from her shoulder. But they especially have a real interest in terms of gameplay. In the middle of a battle, you must, for example, take into account the length of an animation to heal or draw your bow, or you may experience some premature death. Visually, it also contributes a lot to the violent context of the game. Arms torn off, face partially or completely destroyed, body cut in half, traces of stab wounds in hand-to-hand combat. The Last of Us 2 goes even further in the violence, but it does not do it for free, because this choice supports above all the will to stick to a universe also violent. The result is certainly disturbing, but above all for the needs of realism and immersion. In fact, among the good ideas is the fact that enemies scream, cry or call their comrades by name when you kill them in front of them. It's quite brutal, but the effect is very effective, and here again reinforces the feeling of not only confronting NPCs in terms of history. The game was a little more discreet, but we still found that the level of writing has not weakened since the first episode. We find a character, Ellie, who grew up and who is visibly upset by an event that makes it much darker, and that justifies the extremely visceral side of the experience. The environmental narrative is not left out between many visual clues urging you to continue in a direction, or hidden elements that enrich the background of an area. On this point, the Californian studio does not disappoint. The term has often been used too easily, but it so perfectly characterizes the heart of the experience. The Last of Us 2 is an organic game. The narration, the design, the animations or the gameplay. The title offers an intense and immersive experience that is difficult to isolate just one of the elements cited, as they seem to have been thought together. Is this the mark of a big game? It's too early to say, but our exciting first impressions of it already make us want to get the answer. For this, it will be necessary to wait for February 21st and the release of The Last of Us 2.